Hello my friends, welcome home to my channel. My name is Kel and I will be your graphic design professor for the day, and maybe tomorrow, maybe also next week, and maybe I've always been your professor. Nobody knows. It's impossible to say. As a graphic designer, I'm here to have a good time, preferably for a long time, and one thing that I really struggle with and absolutely despise is any sort of admin work that comes with the job. Having well-organized files is integral to our success, whether you are in-house or you're a freelancer. It's really important that you build a system that works for you, most importantly, ultimately, so you can pull files when you need them and you're not saving over files, something that I have done. I can't tell you how many times. And I know you have too, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. So today we're going to go over how I organize my files so I can always find what I'm looking for and I never save over anything, and I can always do it in like less than a minute. Find any file that I could possibly be looking for, I know exactly where it is. I believe you are only as strong as your file organization, and we need to make sure we are not saving over work, misplacing files, accidentally deleting files, creating unnecessary duplicates, or, God forbid, naming a file blah 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 underscore final, all caps final underscore final for real this time .psd. I know there are a lot of systems that designers use, and this is the one that just works well for me. I know a lot of designers have kind of this like dumpster approach where we kind of just throw everything into our computer and it's just like everything but the kitchen sink type of thing. And I truly believe that maturing is realizing you need a good file organization system, unfortunately. So why do you need to do this? Why even waste the time of building a whole new system if you already have a method going for you right now, or you just take the dumpster approach like I mentioned? Altogether, this makes everybody happy and it makes everybody's lives easier, both you and for your client. I routinely get compliments from my clients for how well my files are organized in our servers or in our shared box folder, our shared drive folder, whatever. My clients can always get in and out and they can see everything that I've laid out for them right in front of them because the system that I've built is very easy to navigate even if you're not the designer who built it. Without a good organization system, it's easy to lose files, delete files, or save over them. As someone with ADHD, many things in my life are an absolute disaster, but the one thing that I can always count on not being a disaster are my files. I don't know why, but it just makes sense for me. I've worked in places with both really great and really poor file organization systems, and it has made a huge impact on the workflow. This led to old files or incorrect files being sent to clients and then gone to print, updates being made to a slightly different version of a file where a previous version should have been this version or this version should have been this version, and update been made to this one and not the other one. Not having those properly labeled creates duplicates. It allows for updates to be made to one file and not the other when they should have. You get what I'm saying. It is a risk to live your life like this, and in the very deeply serious world of graphic design, in my opinion, it is not a risk worth taking. So, how I built this. I built my file organization system by combining a few different approaches from places that I've worked. I worked 4 years in-house, and I am now coming up on my 5-year anniversary of being full-time freelance, so I like to think that the system I've built over the years is pretty robust and it's worked well for me. I learned what worked, what didn't work, and what works best for me, most importantly. As a freelance designer, though, I have to be able to rely on systems that will consistently deliver the results that I need, if you will. Now, there is absolutely a learning curve when it comes to building any system like this because it can seem a little complicated at first, but I promise in the long run, it'll start to make sense and you'll thank me later. You have to think of it a little bit like a language. At first, it might seem a little bit intimidating, but bit by bit, every single day, you'll get the hang of it. You'll understand the code system that you're making. Like I said earlier, there are a million approaches that you can take to file organization, and this is what works best for me. You can take whatever you want from this video and implement it into your own life. You can take it exactly how I'm explaining it, or you can just kind of take bits and pieces and make your own system. As long as you're making a system that consistently can be applied to multiple projects across the entire spectrum of all of your clients between now and the future, has to be an endless system that doesn't have a cap. Whatever you do, as long as it works, Godspeed, soldier. The most important thing that I had to consider when I was building out this system is that it has to be limitless. I cannot create any sort of cap on this where eventually I will run out of naming conventions, if you will. This means, in theory, building a code system where you can then go into your Spotlight search or whatever your system's search menu is and search for a file and be able to pull it up in a flash or quickly toggle through your column menu to be able to find the file that you're looking for. This is changing a habit, and if you're anything like me, I both love and hate habits. I particularly like habits that are not good for me. So making this change was definitely hard, but since this is changing a habit, it's really important that you give yourself grace and patience as you're making this shift to a system that might seem truly like a different language, especially if you've been using a different approach or method for years and you know it might not be the best way to do it and you want to make a change for the future. But keeping an eye on the prize, remember that you're building a foundation for your success. But I know it's not going to happen every single time you save out a file, so at the end of the day, at the end of the week, go back through, collect all the files that you worked on that week, go through, rename them, add them to their proper folders, and then you're good to go. Whatever timeline works best for you is totally fine. But the sooner you start building that system that consistently works for you, the better. This is a totally new profile on my computer, so you will see how I start everything completely from scratch. So starting in my Documents folder here, I'm going to right-click, make a new folder, and I'm going to title this folder Creative Work, in all caps, because I'm serious. You can keep this on your desktop. I keep it in my documents because my desktop very quickly becomes cluttered. And the main theme throughout all of this is I am trying to prevent clutter because my brain will skip over it entirely if there's just too much stuff going on. So in here, I'm going to create 4 new folders. The first one is called Clients. Next, Legal. General Assets. And Invoicing. I keep all of these separate instead of them being lumped together by clients for the same reason I said earlier of reducing that risk of clutter. When I am toggling through files, I just want to be toggling through art files. If I'm looking through invoices, I just want to be looking through invoices, etc. I just want to keep the air as clear as possible. So within my Clients tab right here, this is where all of your work for your clients is going to live. In Legal, down here, this is where all of your contracts, your 1099s, your W-4s, business registration, font licenses, etc. they'll all live in here. Up in General Assets, this is for things like displacement maps, textures, scans, etc. Whatever doohickey you're adding to a design can live in here. You can organize this however you feel is best. I have a couple different approaches, but I don't think it's the best part of my organization system, so I'm not including all of the details because this I still kind of treat like a dumpster. So maybe I'll update that in the future. So since these general assets aren't tied to specific clients, I keep them in this just big folder. Down in Invoicing, invoicing is for, you guessed it, invoices. The majority of the work I do is for major record labels, and their system that they have built for themselves is the most archaic billing system I think known to mankind, and some of the interfaces are older than me, and I'm almost 30. So I have to use their templates. I don't get to use cute little artsy ones like other brand designers get to. I have to use their extremely ugly, boring templates. So I keep them organized by music label within this folder and the naming convention that I'm required by the music label to have in the actual file name. So I don't have, again, the best system for that, but it's just I label it by record label and then I just have a number at the end. So nothing fancy. But this part will vary pretty heavily depending on what industry you work in. So in our clients, for this demonstration, we are going to be using flowers as our client names. I write everything in caps for uniformity and to prevent sloppy title casing because I am a very visual person. If there are variances in title casing, for some reason, my brain stops working. And it also just prevents me from having sloppy casing. My nails are long, I mistype things anyway. I just hit cap lock and I type. I don't hold shift, just type. I only use the client names in this part. There's no abbreviation for the client name in this portion. I don't add any numbers in this portion. It is just the client names. And like I said, this will vary across computer systems. I have a Mac, so my system is built out for the Mac Finder interface. So let's go ahead and add our client names. First one is Carnation, Daisy, Lavenders, ER, not AR, I always misspell it. Peony, Petunia, Poppy, Rhododendron, great flower. My dad likes rhododendrons. Rose, Sunflower, and finally, tulip. All right. So since I'm working on a Mac interface, I'm going to be primarily working through the column view here. So looking on my far left over here, I have my regular Documents tab. Then I have Creative Work. Within that, Clients. And then within there, we have our client names. So next, we will be assigning a 2-letter abbreviation for each client. So for Carnation, we are going to assign the 2-letter abbreviation CA. So the final example file name for this will read, now stay with me, 01, as in 0, 01 underscore CA underscore 01 underscore V1 .pdf, or whatever the file is. So let's say our client Carnation has asked us to design a logo for them. So within the Carnation folder, we're going to create a subfolder titled 01. This project folder will be the folder for the entire logo development. Everything from the logo will live within this 01 folder. The next project we do, let's say some merch for Carnation, that will live in the sequential project folder 02. We add a 0 in front of all of this instead of just starting with 1, 2, 3. We add a 0 just for uniformity's sake, same principle as writing in all caps. And since we will eventually reach the 2-digit project code, and probably eventually 3. I have a couple clients where I'm reaching the 3-digit. So you can go back and rename everything and add another 0, but for the most part, you're probably gonna stick in the 2-digit range. So I keep the 0 at the front for uniformity. Now we add underscores to our project names because spaces don't always translate across computers and interfaces. I don't use dashes because for me they affect the legibility and readability, especially if I'm looking at something at a quick glance. An underscore stays out of the way visually for me, and I can continue to move across the project code without getting stuck within a dash. This is a dyslexia thing. I'm also thinking things like that, so I'm mostly concerned about legibility at a quick glance. Now, I do not sort these into folders called logo, merch, web, etc. And I solely stick to my naming conventions. Naming folders by the specific project, like logo, merch, web, etc., it isn't sustainable for growth. So if you do a round of logo development and a couple years down the line you're doing some logo development again, now you already have a folder named logo. Now you can throw that into an archive folder, sure, but I prefer everything to stay uniform so I can see things across time instead of constantly archiving stuff. So if you had something called logo, in theory you would then have another folder called logo 2. For me that doesn't work. That stresses me out for some reason. So within the 01 folder, we're going to make a new folder called 01 underscore CA underscore 01. Okay? So this 01 stands for the project number of Carnation. The CA is our client 2-digit code for Carnation. And then 01 is the specific project within this main project folder. So within this folder, we would, in theory, be making a mood board, for example. So I'm just going to open this. I'm going to just pretend this is a mood board. We're not going in detail here today. So I'm going to title this mood board 01 underscore CA in caps underscore 01 underscore V1, because this is the first version of the project. Actually, I'll leave it just like that for now. So pretend this is our mood board folder. I'm going to go to File. I don't know how to use Pages. So I'm going to export to PDF. Blah, blah, blah. Now, within my drop-down menu, I'm going to go to Creative Work, Clients, Carnation, Project 1, and then the sub-project folder within Project 1. Same naming convention, and then adding the V1 off of that. Export. So now if I go within my Finder window, I now have a PDF with that name. So as you go through development with your client, you can go V2, V3, V4, and that will be everything within that mood board folder titled 01 underscore CA underscore 01. Okay, divas. Now it's time for us to build out some logo options for Carnation. Since this is separate from the mood board section, we are going to be making a new folder within the 01 project folder. So we're going to call this 01 underscore CA underscore 02. This is the logo development folder. Typically I start with sketching, but for brevity's sake, today we're going straight into digital. Now I like to make an exploration file where I can just dump all of my ideas into something and then I can break them down later. So I'm going to save this Illustrator file. Don't save things to your Creative Cloud, guys. Don't do it. Don't give Adobe access to that. Don't show again. Save on your computer. So within my creative work, clients, Carnation 0102 project, naming this 01 underscore CA underscore 02 underscore, and I'm naming this Exploration. Now I'm not adding a V1, V2 to this, since it's not a formal file that I will be submitting to the client. All right, so let's just, I'm gonna type out Carnation. Let's go through here. Let's do one for Cooper Black. Duh. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Ooh, that's kind of fun. I don't know what fonts I have on this profile. Ooh, Altice. Do I have... Ooh, Perfumery. One of my faves. All right, and I'm gonna do one more. Not that these are logos, guys, don't come for me. I really like Marlide. Pull our kerning a little bit closer together. That's a little too close. Oop, wrong way. Okay, so let's just say this is my exploration, and I want to send each one of these to my client. So I'm going to make a new file. So I'm going to name this first one. Same thing of 01 underscore CA underscore 02 underscore. We're going to name this one V1. And I'm gonna copy and paste that into there. And we'll pretend this is my little proposal for this particular logo. If I wanna mock it up on stuff, add it onto some different colorways, yada yada, that's where that would live. Now next I will be making a new file, saving this as 01 underscore CA underscore 02 underscore V2. Just like that. And I will be dropping my next one into there. Same deal, make my little mock proposal of that within this file, and then same thing for my third file. And I'm going to be saving this as 01_CA_02_V3. Just like that. There's a couple ways that you can approach this next step for logo proposal specifically. You can either export all of these PDFs individually and then combine them into one PDF, or you can combine the artboards into a new file so it all stays in Illustrator. So I'm gonna do the second approach of combining all of the files within Illustrator just as 3 separate pages. So I'm gonna go ahead and do 3 artboards here. And I'm going to save this as 01_CA_02_proposal_V1. Now you can make a different subfolder within this project folder where your proposal will specifically live. I like that because it can keep things a little bit separate, again, reducing that clutter. So I'm gonna go ahead and go proposal. And this is gonna live in there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste each one of these, saving. And then let's just say I wanna send this to the client. I'm gonna save this out as a PDF that would read 01_CA_02_proposal in all caps _V1.pdf. Just like that. How are we feeling, guys? How are we feeling? I hope this isn't too much. Every time I explain my file convention system to someone, they're like, this sounds insane. And then after a while, they're like, no, I think you're actually onto something here. I think you're onto something.
Are you stuck using the same shapes in your designs? Come on down to Kittle's Shapes for Squares Fest, and you can try all new vectors this weekend. Sick of circles? Try our new shape, no angle. It's like a circle, but different. Maybe you're ready to upgrade from a triangle. Good thing we've got the brand new quad angle with your name on it. At Shapes for Squares, we got shapes for everyone, like long square, short square, or circle the long way. We also have this. I don't even know what that is. Looking to propose to your graphic designer girlfriend? Get her a diamond she'll love, like this one. Looking for a custom shape? Step into our brand new vector suite and make your own, you little freak. Combine shapes and make something no one has ever seen before, like this one. Click into any pre-existing shape and adjust the handles, or use the pen tool to make a new one. We're just bursting at the seams here for Kittle's Shape for Squares Fest. We've got hearts, teardrops, leaf, rainbow, happy Pride Month, and even blob. Now, I just went to talk to my manager, and let's just say they said I could give you 25% off any plan with my special code. Between you and me, what the other guys won't tell you is that you can start using Kittle today for free. Drive off the lot today in any of these shapes for free. And when you're ready to upgrade, let me know. There's a lot of programs out there, and I'm not selling you a beach house in Idaho, so I'm gonna be honest with you. Kittle's easy to use, web-based browser, collaborative. You can add your clients to it in a snap. Now, who else is doing that for you? Huh? No one. It's just me. So come on down to Kittle's Shapes for Squares Fest. We got something for everyone, even squares.
This message was brought to you by shape-loving people at Kittle.
Who else is doing that for you? Huh? No one. It's just me. Graphic design.
Now, if the client comes back and they want to see a couple changes to this, I'm going to go ahead and save this out as a V2, V3, etc. And every time I make a new modification to one of these files, I can then save it out. Like if I'm changing this, I already have V1, 2, and 3, but they want to change something to this one, I'm going to go ahead and save that as V4. I want to keep every single one of these file iterations completely separate from one another, because I can't tell you how many times I've had a client go back to a very early rendition of a project, and I've learned the hard way. If I save over those, or I just make changes to that original file based on their feedback, and then they want to go back to the one before that feedback, you're cooked. So we do this because those clients will happen. I'm telling you, it sounds insane. It sounds like they won't do it, but I promise you they will. So we're making as many versions of it as possible without having complete duplicates of previous files. So let's just say they want to play with this Cooper Black one some more. So I'm going to do a V4. And let's just say they want the tiniest change. They want to mess with the kerning because they're cuckoo, okay? But that's going to be a whole separate file from the V1. And let's just say they want to go back to the V1. No problem. No problem at all. It's right there. So I can have this one and I can have this one. And I didn't save over it. I didn't make edits to this file in particular. They want to go back to this one. Now I have it. I didn't edit it. It's always been there. And that's what we're shooting for here. Consistency, accessibility, and ease of use. If you take anything away from this video, those are my goals. So let's say Carnation wanted to make a whole brand guide based off of how they feel about the logo. I would follow this same exact naming convention system. So within this still same project folder of the 01, and then we're in here. So this, remember, is the brand development. So we have our mood board exploration, we have our logo exploration, and now maybe they want to start moving into more of a brand guide. So I would make a new folder called 01_CA_03. And then I would follow the same convention. If they wanted to do icons, if they wanted to do some pattern development, same system that we followed here earlier. And for a brand guide, I personally like to keep all of my icons separate, all of my patterns separate, because those are things that can run on till the end of time with development, and I don't want any of those hairs to get crossed. Now let's say Carnation loves the brand that we've made for them so far, and they would like to see it on some merchandise. My dream. So how do we organize this new collateral where there can be multiple colorways, multiple bodies that something can be printed on, multiple products that something can be printed on? We follow the same method that we did for our last folder. So within Carnation, we have 01, which remember is our brand development folder. Now, since merchandise, I consider it's really where you draw the lines. But in my mind, I'm drawing the line here. So 01 is just going to be for brand development. Everything that we've done thus far. So for merchandise, in my mind, that becomes project 02. So I'm gonna make a new folder that says 02. I like to separate it from the brand development folder, even though it may seem like early brand development to have the merchandise in the same main brand folder. But for me, I don't like to overrun things with a subfolder, and in my mind, merchandise is separate enough because I'm not necessarily doing brand asset development in the merchandise development folder. Now, sometimes that can overflow into brand development, but I'm keeping them separate. And this is something I truly do for all of my clients. So within 02, we're going to create a new folder called 02_CA_01. Oh, 01. And this is where we're going to create our first t-shirt design. So I'm going to be making a new file. Mine is going to be 11 inches by 14 inches. That is a standard screen printing size at 300 dpi. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this immediately. Before I ever touch anything in any artboard, I save it. Because then as I go through the project, I can just hit Command S and quick save things as I'm going along. Do not start working in a file without saving it out as the initial save as first. It is a habit I changed years ago, and I am so glad I made that change. And I know you guys start working in those files without saving it. I know, because I used to do it too. But I promise you, we can do better. We're building good habits for the future. Let it start now. So, going in my 02, I'm still within my Carnation folder, 02_CA_01. I'm going to name this Pop Quiz. What am I going to name it? I'll stare at you while you think. Come on. The answer's right there. It's right there. You know? Okay. 02_CA_01_V1. And now let's think about this next thing. We're adding a new little set of characters here. What could it possibly be? What is unique to merchandise that might not be applicable to maybe a pattern that we made for our brand? That's right, where it's going on the garment. So in this circumstance, this is gonna go on the front of a shirt. And I don't know if you know this, you can put things on a lot of different places on a shirt. You'd be surprised. Shirts can have up to 4, even 6 hits. So I separate them based on where that placement is. So for this one, it's going on the front of a shirt. So I'm gonna hit underscore. What am I gonna title it? All caps, F, R, gasp. That's it. So I have this labeled as the project folder, the client name, subfolder, what version of it, and where it goes on the garment. This is really crucial for my field of work. I have to separate things. Do not rely on printers to separate it for you. So let's just say for this, they want to put this Cooper Black on a shirt. Yippee. I'm gonna align it to my canvas. Woo woo. Now we've got this for, oh my God, it's got that stupid hover thing on. I hate this. Adobe, stop making your programs worse, for the love of God. Oh my God. All right. So there is the front of our shirt. Now we want to go ahead and do the back. So we're going to make a new file, same size, 11 inches by 14 inches at 300 DPI. I start all of my files in RGB and I convert them to Pantones or CMYK later, but I always start in RGB. I'm going to go ahead and save this out. Same thing, 02_CA_01_V1_, and instead of FR, this time we're going to do BK for back. Now for this, let's say I'm gonna grab that same color from over here. I'm gonna make a nice wide brush. I don't have any of my brushes loaded into this, and that's okay. All right, so let's just say I do this cool, no, that's ugly. When I'm being watched. Okay, so we got this, and then I'm gonna do okay, this is so stupid. I'm gonna do the same thing I did to the front of making a new mask. This is a question I got asked on Instagram actually, of how I make something look a little bit softer. So I like drawing stuff with a really rough brush, and then I make, let me go back. So I'll go back and have like a really rough selection like this, and then I am command clicking on the thumbnail in that layer, going down here to the little half moon. I click and I go up to solid color, and it is going to make a mask of that selection. Then I double click in that, and then I can start getting a little fun in here. So I love to play around in here. I like to make things really goopy. I like also to shift the edge up a ton, like this. And then I open it again, and I'll do kind of like the inverse, where I'll make everything really smooth, increase my feather radius, increase my contrast, and then shift my edge the opposite way. That's a little too far, but I think it makes things look more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, stylized. So I have this. This is where I started. This is where I'm at now. So let's go ahead and grab carnation from the front. I'm gonna make it tiny and put it on the back like that. So there's the back of our shirt. Now let's say they wanted to do a long sleeve shirt, God forbid. So we're gonna make a new file. And instead of 11 by 14, our height is gonna stay the same at 14 inches, but for width, we're gonna do 4 inches. The sleeve size depends on the printer. This can vary, but this is my standard size that I use. So I'm gonna go ahead, save this, Same naming convention, 02 underscore CA underscore, oop, let me restart, 02 underscore CA underscore 01 underscore V1 underscore and then sleeve. But there are two sleeves. Well, typically there are a right sleeve and a left sleeve. So let's just say for this one, standard sleeve hit is typically the left sleeve. So I'm going to abbreviate it as LS. This is the left sleeve of the long sleeve print. So let's say for this, we do some more of these carnation doodles. All right, this is very crude. I apologize. All right, same thing, same old rigmarole, doing that same technique, moving or shifting my edge up really high, smoothing it a ton, like that, and then doing the same thing, but shifting our edge back inwards, like that. Boom. And then there's our sleeve hit, saving that out. So now we want to mock this up onto a long sleeve t-shirt to send over to Carnation. So I have my long sleeve mock-up here. And if you have this annoying hover thing turned on, you're being held against your will to have this stupid little function on, I can't stand it, you can easily go up while you have your move tool selected right here. This little arrow guy. You can go up here to your little settings and then hit hover, show hover bounds from layers. And now it's gone. I hate that feature. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea. Oh my God, it's doing it again. Oh, it's right there. Okay, maybe it's the wrong one. Show layer bounds on hover. You have to turn both of them off. Jesus. Okay, so we have our long sleeve t-shirt mock-up. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this out. Go to Documents, Creative Work, Clients, Carnation 02, 02CA underscore 01, where we have our art. And then I'm gonna go ahead and name this 02 underscore CA underscore 01 underscore V1 underscore mockup. Like that. So we're gonna go ahead and drag our art in now. Just gonna make a selection, mask that, delete that, selection of the back. Just like that. Save this out. Oh, I have it selected as a GIF. Don't need that. PNG preferred. Just like that. Let's throw a common next evolution in here. So if the client were to come back with, they wanted to see this on maybe a washed green long sleeve body, how could we do that? So what I would do is then save this out as V2. So it's separate from V1, and then go ahead and do like my, let's see, I'll go a little bit more green. Is that what I've been doing? Linear burn? Yeah, it is what I've been doing. So if I wanted to do that, so it's a separate mock-up, just like that. So you could do the same thing for a hat, a tote bag, just making new versions of the mock-ups. And then you have everything always staying separate. And then you can just drag and drop that art in there. So I would save this out again as a PNG. Okay, And just like that, we have built out a solid file organization system for our client, Carnation. If we're looking at our client list, we have a couple clients that have similar names or names that could use the same abbreviation for their 2-letter client code. Looking at Peony and Petunia here, both of them in theory could have PE as their client code. So how do we prevent them from getting mixed up? The 2-letter client code comes back. Now, I would want for both of these to have PE as their client code, but unfortunately that would completely ruin the system that we've built here. So only one can have that. And so we have to come up with something for the other one. So in my mind, Peony makes more sense for it to have the client code PE. Phonetically, Petunia has this hard T sound, so in my mind, that makes it easier for me to remember Peony or Petunia. So Peony is going to get the PE and Petunia is going to get the PT client code. And coming up with weird little clever tricks for you to remember is always a good habit so you can stay consistent in your file organizing system. Well. Who would have thought? I am popping in to interrupt, if you may, not for a sponsor. It's not a sponsor, it's not a sponsor. This is my Command F segment where I feature non-white, queer, trans, and up-and-coming designers to help get eyeballs on their work so they get hired in my quest to help diversify the field of graphic design. And this doesn't exclusively include graphic designers, but I'm mostly going to focus on them because that is my job. The Command F designer that I'm featuring in this segment is Matthew Miller. Matthew is a Black queer graphic designer based out of Columbus, Ohio. Under the name Matthew Miller, he creates thoughtful design for intentional people with a focus on sustainability, storytelling, and social impact. His work blends emotional depth with clean, compelling visuals, often rooted in nature, community, and care. Matthew's work caught my eye a couple years ago because of his use of color and texture. It is truly unlike anything I am seeing on the market right now. Colors in general, the gradients, the texture, the grit combined with the eye for type. Oh my god. And also, it's really nice to see another designer who has such an emphasis on sustainability in their work. You can tell that in a lot of Matthew's narratives, he does have that attention to nature and caring about the environment. Matthew's open to any kind of work, but I think personally he would do really well in a field where he has a lot of extra care and specialty in the sustainability space. Please go give Matthew Miller a follow, check out his work. It's truly some of the most beautiful stuff that I've continuously seen on my feed. And if you work for a brand or a band, please reach out to Matthew. Thank you so much for listening to this segment. It is very important to me that you follow and support these designers, get people's eyeballs on their work. That's all. Thank you. Okay, back to the video. It's time for questions with Kel. I know this is a heavy video, so you might be thinking, this is really confusing. How can I start implementing something like this? Not to sound extremely old, but change takes time. No one gets worse by practicing. Start with just one step at a time. Next time you start a new project, that is a new opportunity for you to implement a new naming convention system. Over time, you can go back through previous files as you may be making revisions or organizing files. You can go back and start renaming them and putting them into these new folders. It may be daunting, but set a goal of maybe doing one project a week or one project a day, 2 projects a week, whatever is the most comfortable and attainable for you. Go back through, rename them, reorganize them. Little by little, you will chip away at your old naming convention system or the dumpster that you maybe used to use, and you're slowly but surely moving things into a better system for the future. And eventually you will catch up. It may take a while, but time will pass anyway. I'm still lost. And I'm a visual or a tactile learner. In the description, there is a PDF that you can download for free with an easy to understand guide to my file organization system. Very similar to what we went over here today. You can print this guide out and tape it to your wall. Tape it right in front of wherever you sit at your desk. If you learn by doing like I do, you can take it and put it into Illustrator or whatever program you prefer using and make it look the way that you want. I tend to respond to things that look really pretty and cool, and if I get to remake something, it helps me learn the system better. And if you can make something in a fun way that speaks to you, the more likely that your brain will remember what you're actually doing. Make it pretty, make it cool, make it useful, whatever it is, as long as you're doing it and following it, that's all that matters.
Is this entirely foolproof, Kelly?
No, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is completely foolproof. I have still managed to make mistakes with my convention system, but my mistake rate is like less than 1%. And I've made far less mistakes over time, but I have not encountered a major issue in my system overall. Any issue that I have had has been something through my own making within the file, but not the naming convention itself. When I make the one-off chance of mislabeling something, it is almost always due to my dyslexia and not because of the system being incorrect. I usually catch these eventually. I stay consistent in my naming convention system, and most importantly, I save new versions of a file every single time I touch them, making any edits, whether it's a tiny change of a colorway, I am making a new version of the file entirely. Can I use this system for non-design files? What if I'm not a graphic designer? Well, good for you. You can absolutely use this for non-design related work. Applying the same principles of these project-based folders with sub-projects and other versions and making duplicates as you make changes will also be successful. You're following the same principles of the system. Now, if you have any questions at all, if anything wasn't answered in this video or it was a little ambiguous, because in my mind, this is a very clear system, but I understand for anyone who might be hearing this information for the first time, it can be quite daunting. So if there's anything that you might have a question about, please leave it in the comment section below and I am happy to answer it. I know it seems confusing, but it is a healthy habit to adopt for the future and you'll be thanking yourself later. So be sure to download the guide in the description box so you have a reference that is in this video. You're welcome to come back to this video whenever you want. I always welcome new eyeballs, same eyeballs. I reference the same tutorial videos about 72 times a week. I think I'm half the views in some of the videos that I watch for tutorials because I'm always coming back. If you adopt the system, please do let me know. I've converted a couple of friends to this system and it has completely changed how they organize their files on their computer. All of those people are creative people who work in the graphic design industry, so I know it does work in that field and it has worked really well for me. Thank you so much for sitting through this really long video and thank you for checking out the featured artist in my Command F segment. Thank you so much for watching and thank you for coming home. I'll see you in my next one. Bye class.